Hey everyone, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I'm a spiritual transformational life coach. It's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. In today's video, I want to share my story about what it was like to grow up being able to sense entities and spirits in a family that wasn't quite sure if they believed. I feel like when I spoke about the positive entities, the angels, like when I used to play hide and go seek with the angels, nobody really paid that any attention because it was a happy thing. And although if they really thought about it, it probably would have been just as unsettling as the darker entities. If your child is talking about seeing angels, you're probably just gonna let it be because there's nothing really to worry about. It's almost as benign and unthreatening as an imaginary friend. Probably less threatening than an imaginary friend, because some imaginary friends can turn out pretty creepy. But I remember when I used to talk about, I could only refer to it as Dracula, and I've said this in one of my previous videos, and it was this shadow figure, this dark entity that was probably about 9 feet tall, and it was very, very thin. I mean, Slenderman, way before Slenderman was ever a thing, but also more mist-like as well. And it would pace my doorway every night, trying to find a way to get in. And the only reason it wasn't able to get in is because my mom came in every night and she prayed over me. And it wasn't until years later that I realized what she was doing. And she didn't even know she was doing this. But by praying over me, she gave her intent for protection. Her love as a mother and her intention of protection over her child to have a good night's sleep and a restful night's rest is what literally caused some sort of a shield or force field around my room. So much so that this entity always looked for a way in and would pace and pace and pace, trying to find a little crack in the force field to be able to come in, and was not able to. And then there was nights where my mom did not pray with me, and I had my buddy, who again I've talked about in previous videos, who was sacred geometry is the best way I can describe him. It was a male energy, and it taught me how to create a force field around myself, this sparkling dome force field that I would be able to put over myself. Now, I don't recall all of the memories because these memories that I'm telling you right now were actually suppressed memories that came back later. They came back when I was in my 20s. But I do have very vivid memories about being in elementary school. And right before I hit middle school is when the suppression started. And that's when I forgot everything until my reawakening at about the age of 19. It's tough when you're a kid and you're trying to tell your parents about your experiences and nobody believes you. And I understand that a lot of it was their fear, if not all of it was their fear. And they didn't want me to be afraid. And so when your child is scared, sometimes as a parent, it feels like the best thing to do in the moment is to lie to them, because you ultimately want your child to feel safe in their own bed and safe in their own home. So you're lying to them. Well, they didn't think that they were lying to me, but you're saying these things in the moment to help them understand that they're safe. Because those are scary things. They don't know how to fight something that they can't see. They don't know how to protect me against something that they can't see and only I can see. And clearly I'm so small that it must be in my imagination, right? So that's what I was told, that it was just in my imagination or I just had a dream. Eventually, I started to doubt myself. And that's when the feelings of paranoia started. It was feeling and sensing that something was in the room, but I couldn't see it with my physical eyes. I could tell you exactly what the entity looked like, but because I couldn't see it with my physical eyes, I doubted its existence was legitimate. I started to doubt my own sanity, and I started to ignore what I was getting, the messages I was receiving as far as what I was sensing, and how the best way I can describe it is like echolocation. So although I wasn't seeing it physically with my eyes, there was this energy bouncing back and forth, and every time it bounced back like a wave, I was able to get a mental picture about what it looked like, where it was, what it was wearing, the way that it was standing, how tall it was, how old or young, all of that. I was able to see it with the image that came back in my mind. But I wasn't able to see it with my physical eyes. So I doubted my sanity. Then, of course, you add in religion and what people said, people that I trusted would say that it was demonic, or that it was, or that I was possessed, things like that, that it was not of God, that God is very much against this, God would never give this as a gift. I've heard it all. So because of that, I was afraid of allowing something into my life that I couldn't control. I was terrified of being possessed by a demon. I didn't want the devil to take my soul. I had no idea what could possibly happen, and it terrified me. So all the more reason to shut it out and to doubt my own sanity and think I must be crazy and start to ignore it. And by ignoring it, shutting it out, and being fearful of it was the beginning stages of repressing it. Next came the need to subconsciously fill that fear void. So that's where I started to develop these numbing habits, these habits of survival that I was creating. And part of that, it started with fear, it started with hurt, and it started with loneliness, because I felt so desperately alone. Nobody else was experiencing this. Nobody believed me. I didn't even believe me. There was nobody in my life that I had to talk to about this who gave me any kind of encouragement, told me even that I was going to be okay, or that I wasn't crazy. So these feelings of being alone and scared all by myself, I wanted to numb that. So as a kid, I didn't have many options. So I would sneak food. And I would go in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep because of paranoia and all of these things that were coming around me when the house was quiet. And I would go downstairs and I would grab a cookie or something like that, and I would eat it, and I'd go back up into my room, and a little bit later I'd come back downstairs and grab some chips and then go back up to my room. And this was every night that I could possibly get away with it. Then that turned to bitterness towards other people and towards myself. It turned to anger, because the anger was protecting the hurt, the bitterness, the scared, lonely child. And then that turned into weight gain. And at the time, I thought it was a whole bunch of weight. Now looking back, it's like, oh my gosh, that was nothing. I was in elementary school and I had some pudge. But my family responded very negatively to the weight, and I believed that I was much bigger than I was. And kids are also mean, and there was lots of nicknames at school. And so again, like all of this stuff, it built on itself and perpetuated all this stuff. So the need to numb out created the habits of survival, which created the bitterness and created the anger and created the weight gain. And then it started to, because of the bullying and because of things like that and things that I was already repressing, but I was no longer aware that I was repressing them. Like, they've been repressed. There's no memory that I was repressing them. There's no memory that they existed before, okay? They were solidly repressed, but the energy and the emotion was still there. You can't repress that. You repress the memories, but you don't repress what it does to your body. So then that moved into me pushing people away before they could judge me. And this complete fear of being judged and rejected and creating that. I literally, what I feared, I ended up creating, because ultimately by pushing people away, I would end up hurting them. So therefore they would push back and they would also likewise reject me, or they would just be like, okay, and then not have anything to do with me. So then what am I doing? I'm creating this isolation environment, which is perpetuating these feelings of being alone. Then that led to depression, serious, deep and dark depression. And I became obsessed with suicide. I planned it out a million times. Okay, a million is exaggerating. I planned it out probably 5 or 6 times, how I was gonna do it, all these different ways, down to every little minute detail just to make it almost theatrical. I thought about different ways that I could get away with it. I thought about how to protect my little brothers from finding it, like who would find it and when, it meaning my body. And then that led into other events that ended up happening in my life, which are in another video, where I did try to take my own life twice. And that brought about a new kind of fear, a fear of myself, and simultaneously a fear of death, ironically. So then I went into using sex as a way to feel better about myself, a way to feel accepted back into society. I no longer wanted to be on the outside. I no longer wanted to reject people. I no longer wanted to be alone. I wanted to be accepted. And I was so weird that it felt like the only attention I was getting was sexual. Now, did I sleep with a lot of people? No, I did not. I don't judge anyone who went that path. I can easily see how that would happen. Personally, I did not, because there was still so much fear there, but I still wanted people to want me because I felt like that was the only way to have value, and I was seeking externally for self-love. So I don't know if this is going to resonate with anybody. This is not where my story ends. It's actually just the beginning. If you want to know the rest of my story, go ahead and check out this playlist here that talks about my journey. But if you have grown up with the ability to sense or see or communicate with, or anything that society deems as supernatural, and you are alone or you grew up alone, I'm here to tell you, you are not. You're not alone in your experiences. You're not alone in your struggles. You're not alone in your self-doubt. And you're not alone in your fear. You're not alone in your desire to be accepted and loved and a part of a community. And I want you to know that I am here. And this group, if this is the first time that you've encountered my videos, I invite you, if you want to, subscribe, because this group is an amazing group of people. Everyone that subscribes to my channel, this community that we're building is amazing. And I also, I don't even know, I said, yeah, in the beginning of this video, I said I'm a life coach. If you have not had a free definition session with me yet, go ahead and check out my link below in the description. And you can actually pull up my calendar and you can see what's a good time for you and a good day. And you can schedule a call with me and it'll actually be one-on-one. We can talk. You're not alone. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being part of this amazing community. And I will see you next time.